Hey folks, John Ferguson Smart again. A lot of folks ask me, what is the best place to start if you've got a big test suite that's hard to maintain, that's fragile, that's flaky, that the tests are failing randomly all the time? How do you go about tidying it up? How do you go about re-establishing order and turning your test suite into something that you can use? Now, some folk will try and go through the test suite and try and fix each test one by one. I have found that that's quite a thankless task. It's very labor intensive, it takes a lot of time, not a lot of fun, and very, very slow going. What I've found personally, a much better approach, and this is an approach that I've seen actually save like 80 to 90% of the time needed to maintain the test suite after you finish the exercise. What this approach is basically you take a step backwards and you redo a requirements analysis on your application. Now, not a heavyweight one, you do a lightweight one. You can use feature mapping, or in BDD in Action, the latest edition that I'm working on with Jan Mollick at the moment, we've actually come up with an approach that we use for this sort of situation, using a combination of impact mapping and feature mapping to identify the key flows, the key workflows, the key scenarios, the key features that you need to identify. How do you figure out what the scenarios are that are really important? What do you need to automate first? What's the most important thing? Once you've articulated those, you can start to write them in an executable format. Now, this is where, once again, you've got this massive, great set of test cases. Lots of them are broken, and they're very hard, very expensive to maintain. In the long term, it's going to be cheaper, more effective to actually ditch the ones that don't work. Quarantine them, if you like, block them off, and then start afresh, building up a new set of more maintainable, cleaner, more scalable tests. Now, it does take a bit of effort initially, but you get the benefits very, very quickly. Like I said, this is an approach that I've seen. One friend of mine did this on a test suite and spent a couple of months refactoring the test, but after he'd done that, it took him 80 to 90% less time to write each new scenario. So those savings are massive. So that's my general tip. How do you go about refactoring a test suite? Well, you don't try and do it test by test, but you take a step backwards and try and understand the problem and read your requirements, reanalyze your application to get a better picture of what your application does and express that in terms of executable specifications, and then build on your test suite from there. You'll find it's much more cost effective. Anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about today. Thanks for listening, folks.